Roland Abante's journey to the America's Got Talent stage was not something that began with cameras, lights, microphones, or applause. It began many years earlier, in the quiet, humid mornings of a small coastal town in the Philippines, long before anyone outside his community knew his name. For most of his life, Roland was known simply as a fisherman. His days started before sunrise, when the world was still blue and half asleep, and the sea was the only thing awake. With calloused hands and worn nets slung over his shoulder, he climbed into his boat, a boat that had seen storms, scorching heat, and endless nights, and pushed off into the open water. Fishing was not just a job, it was survival, a way to provide for his family and his small home tucked away near the coast. Despite the hard life, Roland always had a secret comfort: music. He sang to himself while sorting fish, sang while paddling through the waves, sang during long nights when he thought no one was listening. His voice was his best friend, something pure and untouched by the struggles around him. People in his town heard him sing at small gatherings, karaoke nights, and community events. Some called him Bulldozer, because he tackled life with the strength of a man who had weathered many battles, yet his voice was the opposite of rough. It was smooth, emotional, and full of soul. But dreams didn't come easy. Fame was something distant, unreachable, and almost unrealistic for someone who spent most of his days knee-deep in seawater and fish nets. For years, Roland's routine was the same: wake up early, sail into the ocean, return home with his catch, and sometimes sing on the side streets when the opportunity came. He had the gift, but not the stage. He had the passion, but not the platform. He lacked the confidence, the resources, the training, the exposure, everything one would normally need to pursue music professionally. Yet at the core of his heart, hidden under the weight of everyday responsibilities, Roland carried a quiet dream. He wanted to be heard. He wanted to see if his voice could reach beyond his town, maybe even beyond the Philippines. But life kept him busy, and dreams stayed quietly tucked away. That all changed when videos of him singing began circulating online. A friend recorded him singing casually, and his voice spread through social media faster than he ever expected. Comments poured in from strangers, praising him, encouraging him, telling him he had something special. That attention sparked something inside him, something that told him maybe he wasn't dreaming too big, maybe he deserved a chance. Eventually, with the support of friends and family, Roland gathered the courage to audition for America's Got Talent. Arriving in the United States was overwhelming for him. The noise, the crowds, the scale of everything, he felt like a small boat in a massive ocean. His English wasn't strong, and that made him even more nervous. He worried about being misunderstood, or worse, embarrassing himself on a stage watched by millions. But he reminded himself of why he came: to honor his community, his family, and his dream. Backstage at AGT, Roland could barely steady his hands. The cameras captured him trembling, his eyes glancing around anxiously as he took in the grand stage that seemed too big for someone like him. Contestants beside him practiced their acts, stretching, warming up, rehearsing lines. Roland simply stood there, breathing heavily, clutching the microphone that felt both like a blessing and a burden. His heart pounded as he waited for his turn. He wasn't used to being watched, he wasn't used to having the world's eyes on him. Yet he felt a strange pull, the same pull that guided him on long nights at sea when he sang into the darkness, imagining someone, somewhere, might hear him. Finally, his name was called. He stepped onto the stage, and the bright lights nearly blinded him. The audience murmured softly, curious about the humble-looking man standing nervously at the microphone. Simon Cowell, Heidi Klum, Sofia Vergara, and Howie Mandel sat before him, their expressions unreadable. Simon asked his name, where he was from, and what he did for a living. With honest shyness, Roland explained he was a fisherman from the Philippines. His voice cracked slightly as he spoke, revealing his fear. Simon sensed the nervousness and gently asked if he was scared. Roland nodded. The audience immediately responded with encouragement, cheers, claps, supportive shouts. For a moment, Roland looked around the room, breathing slowly, letting their support sink into him. His hands were still shaking, but now they trembled with something different, hope. The music began, "When I See You Smile." A soft instrumental introduction filled the room, and Roland closed his eyes as if returning to the waves he knew so well. Then, with a deep breath, he began to sing. The first note was enough to silence the entire audience. His voice was clear, emotional, powerful, yet gentle. It did not sound like a nervous fisherman, it sounded like a seasoned performer, someone who had lived through struggles and poured every ounce of his story into each word. The judges leaned forward, their faces brightening with surprise. Roland's voice climbed higher, effortlessly transitioning into strong, soaring notes that filled the auditorium with raw passion. As he sang, Roland forgot about the cameras, the judges, the crowd. He was singing the way he always had, honestly, from his soul. Every high note carried years of hardship. Every soft tone carried years of hope. He sang as if the world depended on it, as if this one performance could change everything, and for him, it could. Halfway through the performance, the audience erupted into cheers, but Roland kept singing, pouring out everything he had. Tears shimmered in some listeners' eyes. Even the judges appeared moved. By the time he reached the final note, the room was buzzing with emotion. When the music ended, there was a moment of silence, stunned, breathless silence, before the audience leapt to their feet in a standing ovation. They clapped, yelled, cheered, celebrating not just his voice, but his bravery. Roland stood frozen, overwhelmed by the reaction. He covered his face for a moment, unable to control the rush of emotion. For a fisherman who was used to battling waves in the middle of the night, this kind of wave, the wave of applause, was something he never believed he would experience. Heidi Klum spoke first, praising the purity of his voice and the depth of emotion in his delivery. She told him that fear made him human, but his courage made him unforgettable. Sofia Vergara followed, saying that his nervousness only made the performance sweeter because it showed how much the moment meant to him. She called his voice beautiful and powerful. Howie admired the sincerity and said Roland had a gift that deserved a global stage. Then Simon Cowell, known for his honesty and high standards, leaned forward. He told Roland that he had something rare, an authenticity that couldn't be taught. He explained that Roland's voice touched people because it came from the heart, shaped by real struggles and real dreams. Simon's words hit Roland deeply. It felt like someone had finally understood him, truly seen him. After a moment of suspense, all four judges lifted their hands and gave him a yes. The audience roared with approval. Roland broke into tears, unable to contain his joy. He walked off stage shaking, crying, smiling all at once. Backstage, he hugged the production crew, thanking them repeatedly. He called his family, who cried with him over the phone. In that moment, Roland was not just a fisherman, he was a man whose dream had finally been recognized. His story spread quickly across the world. Thousands of people shared his performance, calling him an inspiration. Many viewers related to his fear, his humility, and his determination. They saw in him the message that no dream is too far, no background too simple, no life too ordinary to create something extraordinary. Roland's journey didn't end with that audition, it blossomed from it. The world began to hear his voice, and his story became a symbol of hope for anyone who had ever doubted their own worth. For Roland, the AGT stage became the place where he transformed from a fisherman into a global inspiration. And yet, he remained humble. Even after receiving praise and worldwide attention, he still spoke lovingly of his hometown, his family, and the sea that had been both his challenge and his companion for so many years. He never forgot where he came from, and that made his journey even more touching. In the end, Roland's AGT audition was not just a performance, it was a moment that captured the spirit of resilience, the beauty of simple dreams, and the power of believing in oneself even when life tries to convince you otherwise. His story became a reminder that greatness can rise from the most unexpected places, and that sometimes the people who shine the brightest are the ones who spent most of their life in the shadows.